about that? Good to see you. We're in a pre-show. Everybody's getting notifications right now. I'm Jay Skinner, and this is the Buyers and Sellers Show. Thanks for coming already. I'm so excited you're here. We're going to have a good time. Hey, everybody. Here we are live every Friday morning on this channel, and at the same time, it all piles up on social media so you can see all the shows. Hey, yeah, I see people getting on right now. So happy you're here. So what are we going to talk about? You're going to get some management tips. And if you're not a manager, maybe you can help your manager. How about that? Yeah, I think maybe that could happen. 10:35, it's time. And we're live. I'm Jay Skinner, and you're on the Buyers and Sellers Show. Thank you so much. You know that this has been, I was just looking at the paper, 140 some shows in a row over almost 3 years. How fantastic is that? And it's all because of you, because I got great listeners, great people. It's a great opportunity. And then the comments are huge too. And there, Greg says, sounded a little boogie woogie at first, and that's what it was all about. You know it was. Thanks for coming, Greg. I'm glad you're here and you're jumping in right away. What we're going to talk about today is going to be extremely interesting, I'm sure, to you. And see, we got some other people coming. There's Sharon, my niece, Sharon Hoffmeister. Now, she's gone live every day, longer than I have and more than I have every single day. Sharon, she's the THE, SharonHoffmeister.com. How many days have you gone live? Let's celebrate that again. I'm so happy you're here with me. It looks like you're coming from Twitch right now, so that's good. Anyway, so many people jump in there, and Sharon says 1,490 consecutive days going live for her business, and Reveal Products is really great. And I suggest get to know Sharon on social media, wherever you can, the SharonHoffmeister.com. And thanks for coming, Sharon. Really appreciate it. So, you know, the Buyers and Sellers Show is here every week on Friday. And at the same time, you can watch it on my YouTube channel. Just go to my website, which is the THEJAY Skinner.com, and you'll find the link right there to all the shows. At the same time, we talk about the silver rule and the green rule. And the silver rule is do unto your vendors as you want your customers to do to you. And then the next one is the green rule, which is do for yourself what you're asking others to pay you to do for them. For crying out loud, if you're asking people to pay you to organize things in their business, please make sure it's similarly organized in your own as well. Let's see, got some more comments here. Hey, Greg says, sounds like a celebration coming up for 1,500. Sharon, in 10 days, that's the truth. Are you going to have a big deal? That would be cool, wouldn't it? So when we're talking to you about how to have a happy, more productive employees, put square pegs in square holes. This is something that I've touched on for years because I like to understand, and one of these books here that you see, so what makes people tick, understanding that, and those of us that are out there in the workplace, if we understand what makes people tick, it helps us sell better. It helps us get along better with other people through any number of methods or analysis to help us be better at it. I will tell you that some people seem just naturally get along, but for those of us that don't naturally just get it, then I suggest that you study and become smart about how people behave and what the differences are and how you can best work with them to make it really great for them. What's the platinum rule? What is the platinum rule? Do unto others as they want to be done unto. And so we're going to get a little platinum rule here too, because as a manager, you need to do unto your employees how they want to be done unto. And it's not always, well, you need to have this done. Therefore, Mr. Smith, you're going to have to do this and this and this and this because it needs to happen. But Mr. Smith, he's simply not wired to do this and that and this and that and this and that. So he's going to not be very happy. So we're going to talk about how to ferret that out, how to work with those kinds of situations and get it into a happier place for everybody, including you. Including you. Look at that. People are texting away. How about that? And just remember when you're making your comments, there's a delay here. So, put it in and then know that it'll take a minute for everybody to see it. And then I'll try to respond. Of course I will. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what we got here. Additional comments. Let's see. This is a good comment. Greg says, people don't quit their job. They quit their boss. Very good. Yes. And this dissatisfaction we're talking about are, come in the forms of tardiness, incomplete assignments, bad reviews for the company, perhaps, or for the employee, disgruntled customers. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are symptomatic of a problem and dissatisfaction with employees. And so what this shows about today is what to do. Now, here's what I want you to read right along with me. Understand what the people working with you are needing and wanting and how they are naturally wired. Help them get what they need and want, but they might not really know themselves. Now, that's one of the things that was a real revelation to me when I first got into this whole study and understanding of behavioral dynamics back in the 70s. It was I'd say 78, 79, somewhere around there. And it was then that my friend Tony Alessandra, that was not my friend then, but I ran into this book, Non-Manipulative Selling, that had quadrants in it and began to help understand how people are wired. You remember things like this. We're going to show some of that in a minute. But his most recent book, I think, is What Makes Humans Tick. I mean, he's still at it. He's one of the fathers of these assessments and these systems for people to understand themselves better and for you to understand how people operate and how they think and what makes them tick, because there's a huge range of, personality styles and types and the way people are wired naturally. It's in their DNA. And if you can understand that better, start with yourself, then begin to understand how other people are. And remember, what did I say the platinum rule was? Do unto others as they want to be done unto. Then you're going to make some real progress. There's really no excuse not to get along unless you just intentionally don't want to get along. And if you're not getting along and you have no idea, boy, is this show for you today. If you don't really know why there's this tension and trouble at work and this dissatisfaction we're talking about, you came to the right spot. Now, what's the first thing we want to do? Well, there's assessments that need to be taken to help understand how we tick, what we do, how we behave. And you'll recognize words like DISC, or the one that I talk about a lot too is called 6 Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. And there's the websites for these, assessments24x7.com or workinggenius.com. And those are right there. I'm going to give you a chance to look at those while I check some comments here. And oh, my good friend, Doug Wing, welcome. Good to see you. This is great. Doug is a friend. He's an author. He's a former owner of the Little Giant Ladder Company, along with his family, and his dad founded that. And I'm honored that you're here, Doug. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Anyway, as we talk about these assessments and what's involved here, you need to have some sort of an understanding in an analytical way how people naturally behave and find satisfaction in life. And I want to show you here, doing this is not new. It's not manipulative. It's not weird. It's just good manners. Is if you understand how people behave and why they behave and what their natural bent is in life, then when you're dealing with them and you can, as you're talking to them and working with them, you can figure out, oh, this person is like this and they prefer this and that sort of thing. Then you can serve up the right management style. You can serve up the right instructions on what to do. And you remember, you can help them put square pegs into square holes. And you don't find yourself telling people to put square pegs into round holes. What good is that? Now, just envision for a minute putting square pegs into round holes. What happens? It's very uncomfortable. Things get broken. And depending on the material, it just simply doesn't happen. There's a lot of frustration. So join with me to take a look at some of these illustrations, these pictures that might be helpful for you as we're thinking about this. Now, one of the things was I talked about assessments and behavioral style assessments and ideas being not new. I'm going to just kind of slip over here and look at this right along with you. But look at the top. This goes all the way back to like BC, before Jesus. That Hippocrates was teaching personality styles with 4 different distinct types. And then Aristotle, then Carl Jung, and then William Marston? Okay, Walter Clark, and then you got assessments 24/7. This came out of Tony's book, What Makes People Tick. But I instead of assessments 24/7, I think we could put the names, since he's got names of people up there, you could put Tony Alessandra, because of course he's one of the fathers of the DISC system and developers of that. And we're going to talk a little bit. His first work, about 1979, illustrated these original styles. And we had quadrants, and we had the amiable, the friendly, the expressive, the analytic, and the driver. Now, you can go back to some of my other shows where I had Tony with me, where he and I talked about these things. And then we started talking about the DISC equivalents of his original 4 quadrants and how that all works. And the whole idea is, well, how do you assess and understand how people are? And this was always the simplest system for me. And you can see here that you've got the DISC elements written in here. But at the same time, you have Tony's original quadrants, which really are still the easiest for me to understand and follow, where when people are high on the responsiveness range, okay, they're high, this is my hand, they're highly responsive and they're highly assertive, then they would be considered expressive. And if they're highly assertive, but they're not very responsive or expressive or emotional, then they'd be a driver, like a boss kind of guy. Analytical, low responsiveness, low assertiveness. You know, who's analyticals? There's a lot of engineers or accountants, for instance, not everybody. And then amiables, as I always call them, the good old boys. Amiable is from the Latin root of amiable. It's a Latin word. Amicus, I believe. And that means friendly. So now you're beginning to see this, and if you like pictures, these types kind of match up. And then we go here to, now you understand how DISC works. They all match up. And then there's another thing too that kind of tells how people are is the platinum grid. There's another one from Tony Alessandra as he was helping people understand as he was moving into the platinum role. And he continued to have people that were talk about people that were open and direct. And upper right-hand corner, people are very open, very direct, socializer, like the expressive I showed you. Lower right-hand corner, the director, the driver, the boss. Left-hand thinker, upper left, relator, friendly. Good old boy again. I like to use that. But now, one of the things that I said was, besides understanding specifically how people individually are wired, you need to understand what their love of life is. And so I point you towards this. And that's Patrick Lencioni's The 6 Types of Working Genius, which is his work that came out of the pandemic as he was assessing his own life and trying to understand what the elements were in his activities and his work that was causing him not to be as happy as he wanted to be. And the nice thing about this book is it's done in a way, it's almost like like fiction to get started, a story that you can relate to. I love how he did this. And then you read it and then you get towards the end and it gets more technical and analytical about the system that was developed in this fictional book that was so much about him and his office and his company. And imagine if things aren't going quite well enough with you, or even worse, with your team. Look at this. If you understood that you have this acronym, now look at it. WIDGET. That's the Working Genius acronym, WIDGET. And it stands for wisdom, invention, discernment, galvanization, enablement, and tenacity. And when you take the assessment that's available from him, you find out what your working genius is, your number one thing, and what your other things are that you're good at, but you don't particularly love. And you get a couple that are in a high area, then a couple that are in a medium, and then a couple in that are worst. Don't even ask me to do stuff like this. But if you understand how you're wired when it comes to actual working habits and types of things that you do, then it's going to really help you be good at working with people that work with you. But if you don't really have an analytical, technical way of doing this, it's going to be a real problem. Now, Greg's saying to get a square peg into a round hole, you have to cut corners. That is the truth. That is the truth. And the world's full of that. And we've all done it when we've been asked to do something that's not within our working genius or our wheelhouse, the way we're naturally wired. Now, here's something I want you to know. Sometimes when it's just you, you got to do it all. Even the stuff you don't love doing, and you know, but you dream of the day that you can have other people around you to work with you, or can find ways to farm it out so that you don't have to do the stuff you hate. I get it. I mean, you do what you got to do, but to hire somebody and tell them you're going to do this particular job. Let's say you wanted them to go out and socialize and go out into the world and meet people and represent your company like a type of salesperson, cold. Meet strangers, talk to them, be the life of the party, and help grow your business and how people think about you and your business. And this person is extremely not that way. He's not the socializer. He's not the expressive. He's not the assertive type of individual, but he's awesome at technical things and way he handles things. He's awesome at organizing things. He's awesome at working with people and situations to get things just right in the organization, to reduce mistakes, make sure customers are happy, make sure that he does things that he knows how to do to increase sales and make things better. But don't ask me to go out there and hang out at parties and meetings and shake hands and pass out cards. Well, if that's the type of individual and you're putting that round peg into a square hole, or vice versa, how long do you think that person, that man or woman, is going to last in your organization? Well, if they're just desperate for the money and they can't do anything else or nothing else has come along, they will put up with it. They'll do the best they can, but they will be incessantly unhappy. How about if someone's a good old boy and you want to put them into a job where they're going to boss people around and be highly assertive? Well, if they can't and don't have the behavioral flexibility, catch that word, behavioral flexibility, to be able to adapt to other individuals and the needs of his particular job, he's going to be very unhappy. Things aren't going to go right. And then there's just this constant friction. Well, I don't know if we did a show on friction before or not, but there's all sorts of different kinds of friction. And this kind of friction, not good. You know what I'm talking about. So how do we avoid that? How do we avoid that? First of all, understanding deeply how people and why they behave the way they do and what's best for them is good manners. So here's the steps. Are you ready? Oh, gosh. That says 2. Whoa. Oh, yeah. There's number 1. Understand this. Get committed to it. Study it. That's all number 1. Number 2 is do the assessments for yourself. I'm going to show you an example here. You can watch some additional videos. They're available on YouTube, and get a hold of a couple that really work for you. And I ask you to get a hold of my 2 that I'm going to talk about today that I think are just like great. There's about 3 is, if you want to go back to the one that impressed me in the beginning, I think is the super simple and easy to understand, Get Into Non-Manipulative Selling. Go buy the old book by Tony Alessandro. You'll love it. But those of you that have studied DISC and you're like really understand that and like it, or you want to get the most new modern behavioral dynamics type program, that would be DISC. I want you to go to assessments 24/7, 24x7, and you'll see this. I'm going to add this right now to the stage. This is the website here for Assessments 24x7. That's Tony Alessandro's company. It's a good company, been around a long time now. And you can go right here. You can fill in information. You can say who you are. You can get in touch. You can learn more about it. And this is where you're going to go to take assessments. And they have products, and they have a lot of different assessments. And I'm just talking in particular today about DISC, but they have another one called Motivators. And this is where you can go to get smart about this. But most of all, purchase the assessment. They're quick, they're easy. This is not like a giant Myers-Briggs deal. These assessments are done in such a way that you can get through it. It's not too long. At the same time, you'll get a good assessment where you are. Now, you'll also learn, if you do some more studying, how, based upon people's behaviors, you can help them assess, and they can assess themselves on where they fall on these 4 quadrants. And that I really suggest that you learn how to do as well. So what makes humans tick? Go to Assessments 24/7, get some insight about yourself, and understand where you fall in that DISC type system in the 4 quadrants of your behavioral dynamics of expressiveness, driverness, analyticalness, or friendliness, and how that all works. The next thing is this company right here. Go to workinggenius.com, and this is where you discover your gifts, transform your work, and you can pick up the assessment. So this is not going to break the bank. Sign up and take the assessment yourself and understand where you are on this Working Genius program that I was talking about there. Hugely important. And I'm saying do 2 because they together, these 2 types of assessments give you the best picture. Because imagine this and how important it is that you know where you fit in the team. And this is an example of a Working Genius assessment with multiple people in teams. And you've got different people that might be W's or I's, wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity, and people in different areas. And you see who's like, this is their working genius, and who is like, oh no, this is their frustration. Don't even ask them to do this. If this is the next step, once you understand where you are, then you ask the rest of your team, if you're working in any kind of a team environment, and then all of a sudden you may find out, oh my gosh, I've got someone over here doing invention, trying to figure things out, that it's their frustration. They totally do not know what they're doing here. They hate it. They're doing their best, but they hate it. Or you might have other people in other areas. And I promise you, if you have people working within their working genius, or just the second level between working genius and frustration, where it's like, it's okay, they can do it at least for a while. They can be generally happy about it, wish they didn't have to. But boy, I tell you, when people are having to work within their frustration, it's not long before they're gone. It's like totally predictable. And then remember this, within the 4 quadrants, like the DISC system, if you've got someone that's highly expressive and out there making the world a better place in a huge, enthusiastic way, and then suddenly you say, I need you to become our company accountant, exact opposite. Well, we never even talked about right brain and left brain, but you have an analytical side of your brain, a creative side of your brain. And if they don't have enough analytical going, they're not going to be happy there. If they need a job, they'll do whatever it is you say because you're the boss, right? Well, great. Just remember, you're the boss is not the best reason for people to like follow orders. I mean, it's important, but as the boss, if you just understand where the people are, then, and where you are and how that relationship works, you're going to be so much better telling people what to do. So, besides doing the assessments yourself, going back over some of my old shows, getting to know Tony Alessandra, and actually one of my shows was with Tim Elanius, who was with AmericanEagle.com, and he is one of the champions for Working Genius program at that big, huge digital marketing company. Watch those. That'll be a quick learn. Then number 3, after you've had your own personal revelation of understanding how this works and what I'm talking about, have your team take the assessments. You see, like, now this is one of my own things. Look, it said, have you team. I'm putting in an R. There we go. Isn't that funny? Can't stand to see mistakes like that. Now, that's just my nature. Other people could do it. So after you have your own revelation, have your team take the assessments. Oops. Like, I have to fix it again. Now you say, oh, that's funny, Jay. Write in your own program. You just can't, you got to stop everything and fix it. Say, yep. Why? It's my nature. I'm just naturally that way. Now, can that become a problem? Yes. If I thought I was going to destroy the meaning of our entire show, I wouldn't do it. However, I also wanted to use that as an example of just kind of how people are naturally wired. And I'm wired when I see stuff like that. I just have to stop and fix it because it drives me crazy. Okay, now, and since it's my show, I can do it. How about that? And I think the example to you is a good example. So have your team do it. Then I want you to have some lunch and learns where the whole team goes over one of the books. Buy one of these books, Working Genius or Non-Manipulative Selling, or any one of another books that goes into this sort of stuff, and take a chapter a week, assign the chapters to different people in your group. The next week, you're going to have the chapter and they get to read it and everybody reads it. And then we talk about it while we have lunch, and then you buy lunch. That's part of the fun. And everybody gets smart about this, and they can begin to say, oh, I think I'm this type and I'm that type and I'm in this quadrant. And I think I'm a W or a D or a G, or I have discernment or whatever the things are. And people begin to look at themselves. This is not like big private stuff. This is not a big Myers-Briggs personality assessment where you get into all this stuff that's highly personal. No, this is just how you're basically wired and what makes you happy. And no one's going to be sad or unhappy or worried about disclosing anything, because we're not disclosing any big personal information. But it is help how you are wired to do this stuff. Now, Have those lunch and learns and have everyone be involved to share their understanding. And then here's something else. Tony Alessandra did this for me back in the, I think it was the early 2000s, maybe it was the late 90s, with Stratus. And I was doing the lunch and learns with a team and going through this. And then I asked Tony if he'd just call in to one of our sessions after we got to the end of his book and everybody had a pretty good understanding. And he did a little talk and got to meet people and answered questions on the speakerphone. And Tony, to this day, I say thank you. And it was great. And if you would like me to make a phone call and jump in on one of your meetings and help answer questions and just be fun and encouraging, please, I would encourage you to do that. Number 4, start having one-on-one talks with each person about their understanding and overall job satisfaction and performance. With these assessments as a specific reference point, analytical, not emotional. And what I want you to really know is that when you're doing job evaluations and having conversations with people about their situation and their performance and what's going on, they're coming in expecting to become emotional, to be sad, to get criticized. And that's not where you want to go. But if you set up the stage for your personality style, what works best for you and what your working genius is and how you best work and how you like to work, and everybody's beginning to understand it, and they know that now suddenly your working genius way of doing things is going to be based upon the things that we talked about in our meetings, so to speak, then everybody will come in and say, oh, cool. Well, now, so how am I going to become better at what I do? So if you're talking to Willie over here, that is not a tenacious individual, but Willie is great at galvanizing, which is kind of a cheerleader. Well, how are we going to move Willie over to there? And how are we going to don't ask Willie to be a discerning individual about a project, but boy, Willie is great at invention. So you can begin to use these examples in the team and help people understand, if you're not happy, here's probably why. By then they got it because you're drawing them into it. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? And I'm telling you, this is how it works. And the final step here, number 5, is initiate changes and make agreements about what you are going to do together to make it a better place for everyone. Agree to go slow, keep it positive for everyone. Make the changes. Begin to help people get into their working genius more. If someone's been doing something that they go, oh my gosh, I've got the revelation, now I know, then boop, we just don't do it. We can't just stop because it's a job that needs to get done. But if they understand that you are trying and they are trying to kind of move some responsibilities around so they're more in their wheelhouse, more where they're going to be happy and more productive, then they'll appreciate it. But if you ignore these things, choose personally to not study and understand it as a manager and a leader in your organization, you're going to get the problems that you've already had over and over and over again. And now, if you're watching this, you can't just scratch your head and say, I don't understand, because this is the foundation. This is the root cause of the problems that people have when they're leading an organization and people are just generally unhappy. But you can fix it now. Okay, let's just go back 1, 2, 3, 4 very quickly. Number 1, hook up to these websites and understand DISC and the 6 types of working genius combined. Get the idea of how this works. Being able to have the behavioral flexibility to adapt your style to theirs is just good manners. It's not being disingenuous. Number 2, do the assessments for yourself. Understand yourself before you start going out and trying to work with the other people on this topic. Understand who you are and how you are. And those revelations alone will drive you towards some pretty cool things. Number 3, after you've had that revelation, bring your team in to the process and through a process of lunch and learns, or however you want to do it, help everybody understand what you're doing, what you're studying, and how it works, and draw them into the process, because people want to understand. They don't want to feel like this is some big psychological game that's being played on them. They want to understand that it's not a big psychological game. It's something that goes all the way back to, thousands and thousands of years, and everybody trying to understand how they tick. Just like we know that if we're feeling weak, we need exercise. Well, when it comes to our behavior, if we understand the roots of our behavior and how we are naturally wired and what makes us happy to begin with, how cool is that? And by the way, it helps at home as well. Number 4, start having one-on-one talks with people. And these will be employment review kind of talks about how to make things better and how to work together better. They're going to love it. A lot of that stress and tension is going to go away. Number 5, initiate change. Don't do all this and not make changes. Work together with people. Work together with people. Have them on your side. All of you rowing in the same direction. It'll make great progress. Now, I mentioned that metaphor, rowing in the same direction. I don't know if you ever rowed a boat, but if you're rowing one side going one way and the other side going the other, what happens to the boat? It goes in a circle. You don't go anywhere. So everybody needs to be rowing together in the same direction. And you're going to be able to make it happen now because you understand what we talked about today, how to have happier, more productive employees by not trying to jam square pegs into round holes. Everyone, you've been on the Buyers and Sellers Show with me today. And boy, has that ever been a quick 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was being beneficial. Here's my contact information. If you want to call me, send me an email, get on my website. That's a good place to go, and then click on the tab for my shows, and you can go see past shows. The library is right there in YouTube. It's very easy to find and see who I've interviewed and the topics that we're covering. So thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate your support. Until next Friday, that'll be the Friday between Thanksgiving and the weekend, right? The Friday after Thanksgiving. I can't wait to see you. If you got a chance to take a look at it, and always remember, you can go back and see all these shows online. Love you. I'm thankful for you. Keep up the good work. And remember, do unto your vendors what you hope your customers will do to you. How about that? Have a great day. See you next week. Thanks for coming. Bye now.